So we will start the talk by reciting this prayer that I've given in the beginning together. May all sentient beings possess happiness and the cause of happiness. May all sentient beings be without suffering and the cause of suffering. May all sentient beings not be separated from happiness, which is without suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, which is free from the two attachment and hatred, with the feeling of closeness and distantness. So this prayer is related to the practice of the four immeasurable qualities, which are compassion, joy, loving kindness, joy, and equanimity. Okay. So welcome. And today is my turn to speak about Buddhism for 3 days. The topic I have chosen is a chapter which is found in the Tibetan portion of Dharmatrata. And I've chosen this particular kind of chapter which is on happiness. In the advertisement I put the title, Being at Ease. Being at ease. That means in your daily life, how can you be happy? How can you be at ease? Right? Because normally we are not at ease, we are not happy. We are distracted here and there. We encounter a lot of distractions, a lot of problems, a lot of ups and downs. So we are not stable. So in this case, I think I'm doing some research on this also, happiness, because this is something that we always talk about, and it's really important to go a little bit down, deep down, and find out what is happiness. So if you start reading right from Aristotle in accordance with the Western philosophy, then also to the Eastern philosophy like Buddhism and so forth, more or less they are agreeing, although there can be 100,000 different explanations on the meaning of happiness, but they will more or less, at least based on the little that I read, they are more or less coming to the conclusion that happiness means inner satisfaction. So that clearly shows that happiness is not equal to pleasure. This is a very, very important point to be noted. Because we are, generally speaking, pleasure-seeking beings. And today the whole world is running hither and thither. Although we say in search of peace, but what we end up doing is not so much about searching peace, but searching pleasures. Pleasure means primarily the experiences that we have through our involvement of the senses. The eye being able to see something beautiful, the ear being able to hear something that is melodious or sweet, and the body enjoying something soft, nice to touch, tongue being pleased with tasting different kinds of food, and then the nose smelling good fragrances and so forth. So what you see being sold in the market, in the big malls, is primarily the sensual objects. And we are the buyers of the sensual objects. And the sensual objects are, as we all know, is really flooding the market. Because there is so much demand. Something to see, something to touch, something to smell, something to eat, right? So much demand. But after all this development in science and technology and so forth, genuine peace and happiness is not so much in sight. Because we are searching peace and happiness in the wrong place. In fact, in a way we are not searching. We are just talking, we are not searching. We are searching pleasures. temporary pleasures. We are unable to plan and think for long-term benefit, well-being and happiness. We forget our mind. We only remember the needs of the body, the senses. And that's why, as Shantideva said, even though you want happiness, but you end up suffering because of ignorance. Even though you do not want suffering, but you keep on running after suffering, because we keep on running after the causes which produces suffering. And therefore, so long as we have these sensual objects outside, which looks very attractive, and as long as we have this desire, as long as we have this desire and attachment within, we'll keep on running, and we'll never be able to stop and rest. Right? Running. With the speed of aeroplane we are running, but reaching not to the place where we should reach, because we are looking in the wrong direction. So therefore, one of the most important teaching that is found in Buddhism is how to get that long-lasting, reliable happiness from where there is no sliding back. Now the question is it possible to get that reliable happiness, not the fleeting pleasures, but reliable happiness? Is it possible? So therefore, not only it is an important theme in Buddhism, but in fact the whole teaching of the Buddha focuses on sentient beings achieving that happiness, which is called by religious terms like Buddhahood, enlightenment, or nirvana. We use different terms, but that is not important. What is important is these are different names for reliable happiness and peace. For example, when we use the term nirvana in Sanskrit, which means liberation or freedom from the bondage of suffering, of ignorance, of negative emotions. So the question is it possible to reach such a state where you are not influenced by the dictates of these destructive negative emotions? And when we talk about Buddhahood, we are talking about a state where we have achieved omniscience, where we know everything, where there is no suffering, where there is no problem, where there is complete happiness. Again, the question is it possible? That is for us lay people, starters, it is really difficult to figure that out. But what is important is one thing that we can see, if we do a little bit thinking, is that if you really train your mind, you can be happier, you can be more peaceful. And you can never be more peaceful or happier just by accumulating money and material substances. I'm not trying to turn the clock back. I'm not saying these material facilities are not needed. We all need facilities, of course. We all prefer living in a nice air-conditioned room, right? Yeah. We all prefer having, attached bathroom or even small things like that. But I'm not trying to turn the clock back. But what I'm saying is, if you are really looking for long-lasting happiness and peace, then these material facilities, including your friends and relatives, the external things, they can never give you their long-lasting happiness and peace. So now the question is, how can you then get their long-lasting peace and happiness? From where are you going to get it? The only place where you can look for their long-lasting peace and happiness is not outside, but within yourself. Meaning, from your mind. Meaning, that much of the problem, suffering, upheavals that we experience are because of our negative mental outlook, mistaken perception. So if you change your mental outlook, if you change your mental perspective, meaning that you develop a way of seeing things not according to what you want to see, but the way things are, the reality, then you will be able to get that more reliable, long-lasting peace and happiness. Seeing the reality is the key point. Now what do we mean by that? When we talk about seeing the reality, there are so many facets of reality. So one of the key, aspects of reality that has been constantly talked about in Buddhism is, like for example, impermanence. Is it a reality or is it something that the Buddha just projected, or the Buddhist masters just projected? Right? As we will see, impermanence is a reality. It is not something that the Buddha invented. It's the way things are, transient nature. Right? Within phenomena, we have permanent phenomena, impermanent phenomena, but there's not much need to talk about permanent phenomena. It's not going to affect our life. But what is important is the impermanent phenomena, and especially the emotions within yourself. This must be understood properly because it will affect your life, your happiness, your suffering. So impermanence. So impermanence means basically change. Even in the non-Buddhist discourses, it is widely accepted that change is law of nature. Change is law of nature. So change is law of nature means change will take place whether you like it or not. And in fact, if you take a little bit time and look at yourself, you are changing every second, every minute, non-stop. Right from the first moment of the birth, you have started running towards death, towards aging, whatever you want to call it. You have started running, you are changing. Now it is scientifically said, it is now proved and said that after 7 years, your whole physiology undergoes complete change. You are a different person after 7 years, including the bone cells, which are said to be a little bit more slow to change. Everything will be changed. So there is a story of somebody, a criminal who was caught and punished, imprisoned. Then he knew about this scientific statement. And then after 7 years he said, please release me from the prison. Now I am a different person. Really? So that change is happening. Now what is the benefit of knowing this change? For example, there are many phases of reality. For example, in the case of change, what is the benefit of knowing that change? That impermanence, that process of approaching towards death. What is the benefit of knowing that? Number one, you need to know change does not mean death and destruction. Change means change. It can be death, it can be destruction, it can be possibility to become better. Because if there's no change, you can do nothing. Because of this possibility of change, you can become better. You can remove your negative emotions. You can reduce your suffering. So therefore, knowing facts about change, for example, say something that is really related to us is, let us say, death, in the form of death. If you are somebody who really thinks about not only your change in general, that you are becoming older and older every day, every second, not only that, but also if you think about death, and then the death also uncertain, it can come anytime. It's like lightning, and it can strike anytime to anybody. There's no seniority there. There is no, superiority or inferiority or rich or poor. It doesn't take these things into account because this is a law of nature. The way law of nature functions is very, very, just, very honest. Like for example, a flood comes, it does destruction to everybody equally. It doesn't make any discrimination. If there is an earthquake, it will shake everybody. Not only the Tibetans or Chinese, it'll shake everybody, right? Now in the case of the way human beings deal, we make these discriminations. We take into consideration who is rich, who is poor, who is powerful, who is not powerful, things like that. But nature, the way that nature does is equal justice, right? So now in the case, for example, if you have this little bit of understanding of change in general, especially impermanence and death, that will really, really transform your life. How? How? If you are going to die in general, if you have that conviction And not only that, if you have no, you're not just talking, but if you really have that deep understanding that it will come any time, then how will it transform you? It will completely transform you. How? For example, if I'm somebody who really clearly knows that I'm going to die tomorrow, then what is the most important thing for me? Is name and reputation, is it important? That's what I'm saying. It's not important. Engaging in corruption is good. If I'm going to die tomorrow, engaging in corruption, exploiting other people, cheating other people, all these wrongdoings will have no sense at all. This is like a law of nature, you see. It doesn't make sense at all. Instead, if you think about loving kindness, about compassion, about patience, about friendship, smiling with each other, does that make sense at that time? See, it makes sense. Perfect sense. So that's what I'm saying. In times of trouble, difficulty, separation, loneliness, depression, all those things, in those times, the good, positive activities, the development of positive emotions will help you. Negative emotions will not help you. That's why in Buddhism we are constantly talking about undertake Dharma practice, do Dharma practice for long-term happiness and peace. You see. So when you are in big difficulty, these positive emotions will help you, not the negative emotions. And you will also not even think about developing those negative emotions if you are in such a big, tragedy, difficulty. Like for example, let us say if there is a very elderly person, say 95, 96 years old man, not only old in terms of age, but also physically, let us say very ill, very sick, wounds all over the body, pus oozing out and things like that. If such a person is here in front of us, which emotion is better now to develop? Is it better that, for example, with negative emotions, for example, will anybody now think about, develop a wish to marry this person? Huh? Why not? He's also a person, you see. You see? I've been thinking about this. It's really mesmerizing. It's amazing. You will not think about developing an attachment to that person. Attachment is a negative emotion. You will not develop that. Similarly, will you develop hatred and anger to that person? No, because you are able to clearly see that person in such a difficult situation. And you will develop more sympathy, more concern, more affection. Probably you move forward and try to do something. So all these good things, good emotions are important when you face difficulty in life. Not only obvious difficulties, we have difficulties in one or the other form in our daily life. The only thing is that when we are not suffering from acute suffering and problem, we don't take into consideration. Then we think, I'm okay, he's okay, she's okay. But you're not okay. Even though you may not be in that obvious state, but still you're not okay. You need love, you need affection, you need compassion, you need friendship. So those emotions will help you. Those emotions will give you a sense of fulfillment. Yes, I did this. I did this little bit of good thing to that person. And that whole day you will be happy. You will be happy. Contrarily, if you picked up a fight with somebody, did something nasty, cheated something, somebody, whether that other person knew about it or not, it is not the question. The question is, your conscience knows that. And then you will, have that problem within yourself. That person may or may not know, but I did this, which is wrong. So that will not give you satisfaction. You see? That will not give you satisfaction. See, that's the thing. Does it make sense? Buddhism must make sense in today's world. That's what I'm trying to do. in our daily life. For the time being, postpone nirvana and enlightenment. They are too far, not easy, right? But at least to see how these emotions are so useful to us. Is that clear? Now we need to practice as much as possible. I am nobody, I know nothing really, but I try to think a little bit about these things and I try to practice. And it's helping me. And sometimes by having done little small good things, the whole day I feel so happy. That you get that sense of satisfaction, you see. That is called genuine happiness. That is called genuine peace. So that kind of genuine satisfaction or happiness will come not through enjoying sensual pleasures, but by doing the right thing, but by doing the good thing. What is the right thing? What is the good thing? The good thing and right thing are those things by whose nature you do not harm others directly or indirectly. Instead, you help others directly, indirectly. And that's why the Buddha, in his famous, one of his famous teachings, he said, do not do anything that is negative. Do not do anything that is negative. Which negative means something that makes other people's life miserable, unhappy. Do not do anything that is negative. Do not do anything means anything. It's not saying that you can't develop attachment but you can develop hatred. Not like that. Do not do anything that is negative. Anything. Then in terms of doing the good things, the virtuous practices, do the virtuous practices perfectly. The beginning should be good. The actual practice should be good. The conclusion should be good. And in order to do that, he says that completely train your mind. So it's just by saying I'll do good and just by saying I'll not do bad things, you will not be able to do practice. It's not like that because your mind is habituated with many addictions. And you have many die-hard habits which is difficult to sever. So just as you are today very strongly habituated with negative emotions, you need to make effort to get habituated with the positive emotions. And the good news is, if you make the effort, you can do it. You can become good, you can become habituated. That means there's nothing which will not become easy if you get habituated with it. And that is where meditation comes. Now meditation, as Aristotle said, as Plato said, of course I'm giving Buddhist discourse. Plato said, you become what you repeatedly do. That is meditation. You become what you repeatedly do. That's meditation. The purpose of meditation is to make your mind habituated with the positive emotions. Because with the negative emotions, you're already advanced practitioner. You don't have to get habituated. So meditation, therefore, means getting habituated with positive emotions. And then he concludes by saying, this is my teaching. Not doing bad things, do everything that is positive, training your mind, this is my teaching. In just 4 lines. Very easy. Right? Therefore, it is in one's own hand what one really wants to do. The problem is normally we don't think. We don't think much, we don't plan much. We don't have a goal. We don't have a goal really. We're just carried by the tides of the stream of the society. The society is running, I also run. The society is running this direction, I also should run this direction. Hardly anybody thinks whether this is the right direction to run, whether it's the right direction to join those groups of people who are running. And that's why we have only few people like Buddha who ran in a different direction. The rest of the majority of the people, since time immemorial, have been running in a different direction. So that's why, jokingly, some Tibetans, they said, maybe the so-called heaven may not be very pleasant, because not many people go there. And sometimes even one Lama, after the death, supposed to be going there, but he goes there reluctantly, looking back towards the world after every step. The so-called hell may not be terrible, because everybody is rushing there. So it's really something like that. Because of addiction. We are addicted. And in addition to our die-hard habit and addiction, there are so many distractions in general and especially in today's world. The shiny gadgets, the nice looking technological products. We are mesmerized. We just run after these technological products and have no idea who am I, what is the meaning of human being, what is the meaning of human life, what it takes to achieve their long-lasting happiness, peace. We simply have no time, no interest, no attention. Right? Right? Now if science and technology, I'm not against science and technology, but I'm talking about its limitation. If just by science and technology, if we are going to get that genuine peace and happiness, that's wonderful, we just go for that. But it's not happening. So if you want that positive change, that change will not come from science. That change will also not come from religion. Change has to come from human being, himself or herself. Because it is the human being which manipulates religion, which uses science and technology. If science and technology or even religion goes into the hand of the wrong person, it becomes dirty science, dirty technology, dirty religion, just as we talk about dirty politics. Politics itself is not dirty. It's because how it is mishandled by so-called politicians, it becomes dirty. So similarly, everything will become dirty. So therefore, one thing that is very, very strongly missing in our modern education is the human flourishment. Education is not just literacy. Education is not being able to read, write, and do some mathematics. Education is human happiness, human peace, human flourishment. So despite many achievements and degrees, PhDs, so many things, people don't know how to look after themselves. That's the bitter truth. Right? Scott, are you with me? So therefore it's really important to see this important inner resources as the source of your long-lasting happiness and peace. Your inner resources, at the end of the day, your inner mental resources will be your friend, your teacher, your guide, everything. And if you don't have this inner light, inner resources to pull, when you get problems, difficulties, nobody can help you. That is the bitter truth. That is the bitter truth. Right? That's the bitter truth. So therefore, I'm these days trying to read a lot of materials on happiness. I don't know, I bought 20, 30 books on happiness. And therefore I decided to at least study this short piece from the Tibetan version of Dharmatrata, which is on happiness. So we'll just read quickly. There is an English translation of it, So there are areas where I agreed, areas where I did not agree. So I made some slight changes here and there. But since my English is not that up to date, it can be better also. So from conquest comes vindictiveness. The vanquished get suffering. If conquest and defeating others are given up, the happiness of complete peace is found. See, this is what he is saying, is in our human world, we always try to gain victory over others. In this way, that way, even in small matters, you want the victory. You don't care if the others are suffering, if others are defeated. It may be defeating others in terms of success, it may be defeating others in terms of money, it may be defeating others in terms of giving them wrong reputation, whatever. Because the problem is when victory, what is victory? Victory means overpowering others. Overpowering others. And when you have some kind of differences or disagreement, then you try to gain victory over others. Okay? And you come up with this statement saying that I will gain victory over this person and I will dethrone that person, I will belittle that person, and in fact, I will completely destroy this enemy. That's what we are doing in the world. You try to completely eliminate the so-called enemy. But the problem with that is, one, you can never gain victory over others, just even if you destroy them physically. There's not victory. And as he says, that from that kind of stupid victory, what you will get is resentment. That opponent to whom you try to gain victory, with whom you try to gain victory, that person, whether powerful or not powerful, will have resentment, vindictiveness. And so long as you have this, vindictiveness and resentment in the mind of other people, you cannot live with those people. That other person may be quite poor, quite weak, not very strong, but mentally he or she has that kind of resentment and vindictiveness. And therefore he will never cooperate with you and try his or her level best to do something for you. And then of course that person who is defeated, the vanquished, gets suffering, you see. And especially if you look at, for example, gaining victory or taking advantage of some people who are much, weaker and, poorer than you, imagine the suffering that these people get. You see? They'll never be able to do anything, say anything to you, because you are much more powerful in terms of, money, in terms of political power, whatever. They will suffer. And this is actually happening today in the world. Millions of poor people are suffering because of negligence or because of mistreatment and taking advantage of these people. All over the world it's happening. And it's really unfortunate, many countries, they talk so highly about their own country and then they show these nice buildings and modern science and technology, things like that, and show these big cities. But go a little bit outside those big cities and see how majority of the people are living, including America. I have intentionally visited and spent time with the poorer section of people in America. I've spent many weeks with the laborers. They're not much better, you see. So therefore, so long as you don't have this genuine sense of responsibility, genuine love, genuine compassion, you will never be able to uplift the rest, in fact the majority of the section of your country. And if you are unable to do that, your country will never be great. You'll never be great. Okay? So therefore, he says, if conquest and defeating others are given up, you see, the world history is a story of one country trying to conquer another country all the time. Okay? By that, where are we today? How much we have achieved? Nothing. It's all vindictiveness, resentment. Today you are stronger. You mistreat me. Tomorrow I will be bigger, stronger. I will mistreat you. So there will be this endless cycle of violence. So therefore, if you give up this stupid way of conquering, and in most of the cases, conquering is also physical conquering. And Buddha taught a path of conquering the mind of the people through love, through. And if you go around the library, in the library we have so many dogs, you see. At least 6 dogs are here. We used to have only 5. Now 7, 8 dogs are here. And then sometimes a neighboring, dog comes. And as soon as this bunch of dogs that the library has sees that dog, they all just rush towards that dog to just tear him apart. And on that occasion, what do you see? One, there are some dogs who try to, although alone, try to fight. Then of course he will not be matched to this pack of dogs. Then he has to leave the field and run away. But I've seen many of these dogs, what they do is, when they think they can't fight, they just sit down. They just sit down. Then the other dogs come and they lick a little bit and then they become friends. Let that dog stay there, you see. So that also shows humility, love, compassion can help you stay with others, not fighting. Even the dogs, to some extent, know these things, you see. So if conquest and defeating, so unless you are able to conquer the mind of others, like take the example of the Chinese invasion of Tibet, with their military might, political might, economic might, and whatever, they've conquered our land, but have they conquered our mind? I don't think so. Even if they think that now the Tibetans are being conquered, but they have no idea what is going on in the mind of the Tibetans. So long as you don't treat them properly and nicely like the rest of the Chinese, although they say Tibet is part of China, but at the same time they are treating them as different. You see, so long as you do this practice of segregation, you can never conquer the mind of other people. So it is through love, through affection, through friendship, through genuine friendship. Okay? And then you can easily conquer the mind of the people. And that is what His Holiness the Dalai Lama is trying to teach. And that is what the Central Tibetan administration is, at least in terms of the education policy, trying to teach the young kids, younger generation. How much successful we are, I don't know, but we are trying. So if conquest and defeating others are given up, you see. And according to Buddhism, he said, forget about conquering others. First you conquer yourself. You are unable to conquer your negative emotions. What are you talking about? You leave the real enemy, the negative emotions, which has already conquered you, and you are unable to do anything against it. Then how come you are trying to conquer others? How come you are trying to mistreat others? How come you are trying to belittle others? There is a verse in Shantideva's Bodhicharyavatara. I don't remember it very clearly, but it says something like, one who conquers one's mind is the real hero. But one who, becomes victorious in a battlefield is actually killing the corpses, killing the dead body. Meaning that this so-called enemy, even if you physically kill them, this is really like killing the already dead body. Meaning, then elsewhere in the same text he says, you don't have to kill people, they will die. So killing those which by nature is going to die is really like killing or destroying the dead body. Right? So if you gain control over your mind, gain victorious over the negative emotions, then you are a really real hero. Similarly, in Nagarjuna's letter to the friend, because we already spoke about the difference between pleasure and happiness, there's a beautiful quotation in Nagarjuna's letter to the friend. When we did this exhibition by the library on 5 senses from Buddhist perspective and science perspective, then the science teachers and the monks, they were preparing this exhibition on 5 senses. Then when I said, why you're doing just 5 senses? We have 6 senses according to Buddhism. They said, the science teacher said, why do you need 6 senses? 5 senses is enough. Okay, this is a different way of thinking, there's a long story there. But at least I said, according to Buddhism, there is 6 senses. Okay? Then in order to, we put some objects to represent each of these 5 senses. So in order to represent the 6th sense, I put a Buddha's image in the center. And in front of Buddha, I put that quotation from Nagarjuna's letter to the friend, where he says, Khanda wongpo tukyo namlane takto miden yoda khanda chik yungo daso leja tizal khenam tangpo parab lakpar sarasi, that is something like this. There are those people who have gained control over the objects of the 5 senses. There are those who gain control over the enemy in a battlefield. Out of these two, one who has gained control over the objects of the 5 senses are the real hero, not those who have gained control over the enemies in the battlefield. That means normally our 5 senses are fluctuating towards the 5 sensual objects. That's how we are busy. You need something to see, something to touch, something to smell, and for that you need money, for that you need to work. So everybody says, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. Now the midem is fluctuating, moving all the time. There are others who gain victory over who gain victory over in the face of that enemy forces. So out of these two, Kenam, Tangbo Parablakbarsa, according to the really wise people, the one who is hero is really the one who gained victory over the 5 object of the 5 senses. I mean, imagine if you are somebody who is able to control your 5 senses running towards the objects, you will be richer. You will be happier. As I already said, so many things are flooding the market. And the busy people, they know, business people, they know your weakness. They know that if I present these things nicely, they'll all come and buy. And that's what we are doing. That's how we are killing our environment. People who are producing, I don't think they care much about environment. So they keep on producing so many things in different ways, different forms. The same stuff maybe in different forms, different ways, because they need money. And we, as stupid as we are, keep on buying everything that looks new. And they use a word called updated version of the iPhone. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. Now 11 or 10? Right now 10, right? One of my friends, the Indian friend who lives in Dallas, when he saw my camera, he said, Guruji, kya leke ghum raha hai? Guruji, what are you, what are you carrying, Just have one iPhone 10 which has takes fantastic picture and things like that, you see. So we just run after these so-called updated things. And we forget to update ourselves. When was the last time when you updated yourself, you see? As simple as that, really. So the reason is because this inner quality, especially those qualities related to the mind, this is not something visible or obvious like the physical objects. Therefore we tend to neglect it. But the truth is, the most powerful force is there within yourself, not outside. It's not your body. It's your mind. So therefore, as we all agreed, if you really want that long-lasting happiness and peace, then there's no other way but to look within and transform that mind, empower that mind, enthrone that mind. Right now it is dethroned by negative emotions. Now you should enthrone it by positive emotions. Okay, give victory to the positive emotions. Give victory to the power of the positive emotions. Okay? So if conquest and defeating others are given up, the happiness of complete peace is found. See? If you're not too much worried about like your victory, in other words, if you're not too much worried about just me, I want for myself, I don't care what happens to others, It is this me, this self-grasping, which is really killing us, which is source of problem, which is source of development of all negative emotions. Whether it's gaining victory over others, whether it's getting richer, whether it's getting more famous, it's all connected to me. And it is because of this self-grasping, people just don't get the reputation that they want to get. They don't become rich, although they want to become rich. Like, look at His Holiness. He's always saying, I'm just simple Buddhist monk, and he goes, with the head bowed down to everybody, smiling, The more he practices this compassion, loving kindness, humility, the more people flock to him, the more people respect to him. Contrarily, there are politicians who are talking about, I did this, I offend this. They don't get it, you see. They don't get it. And that's for the one Buddhist teacher, he said, you should find it by yourself and see whether the beautiful green grasses and flowers, they grow on the exposed top of a mountain or down in the valley. The beautiful green grasses, beautiful flowers, where do they mostly grow? On the exposed top of a mountain or down in the valley? Down in the valley. So like the valley, if you practice humility, veneration, respect to others, you are becoming sensitive to developing positive qualities. There is then possibility of developing these beautiful flowers of various virtuous, qualities. But if you remain like an exposed top of a mountain and remain arrogant, there's not much room for developing all these positive qualities. Right? So therefore, the key practice in Buddhism is, think more about well-being of others. The more you think about well-being of others, the more you will be the recipient of those positive qualities. The more you think just about yourself and you ignore others, the more you will suffer, the more you will be prone to all kinds of problems, including physical illness and sickness. Now it is scientifically proved that people who always talk about I, me and mine, they are more prone to physical illnesses, including heart attack. Scientifically proved now. It's not only taught in Buddhism, but it's scientifically proved. Why? Because if you just talk about I, me and mine, then you are confining your thinking. You are developing a very, I call it suffocating. If you just think about yourself, then even if there's a small problem, you tend to see it as if it is of unsurmountable, level. If you think more about others, open up, yes, you have a problem. That doesn't mean you don't have a problem, you have a problem, but comparing to so many others, and especially those who are suffering much, much more than you, when you compare like that, I have suffering, but I'm still lucky. You see, it's all mental perspective. So it's important to think more about others. Right? Second verse, one who wants happiness for oneself by creating suffering to others will associate with the enemy without separation and will not be liberated from suffering. So that means, intentionally or even otherwise, the way we live our life is such that we are almost like trying to get our happiness by taking advantage of others, by creating suffering upon others. Like for example, even if you are in a queue, in a line to get your lunch or dinner or something, if there is a possibility you want to jump the line, and you don't think about whether others are having any problem or not, you see. So in this way, consciously or unconsciously I'm saying because of past life's habit, consciously this life's habit, we have this tendency of giving the best to yourself, the best preference to yourself, and the others they'll do later. This attitude is the worst enemy. One who wants happiness for oneself by creating suffering to others. For example, can you do this with your parents? For example, can you adopt this attitude of getting happiness for yourself by creating suffering on your parents? Can you? Or on that person which you really, really love? Can you do that? Will you do, or do you do that? Normally, no. Why? Because you love that person. You respect that person. The fact we do this with the rest of the sentient being clearly shows we have no love for those people. We don't have that understanding that poor man, he also wants the best, let him go first. You see? I mean, it's so beautiful, let them go first and take them. And most of us don't have that courtesy, that positive feeling. In some places, I don't know, grown-up people, professors, when they're, I've attended a number of conferences, so during the conference when the lunch is hosted, people just virtually jump to get that piece of meat or whatever. I've seen this many times. It's horrifying, really, as if these people were undergoing some hunger strike or really, we do see these things. So let them enjoy. What will happen to you? Even if you don't get their lunch, what will happen? Not much, but you'll get their deep satisfaction, yes? They were like, whatever be the reason, they were dying, so I gave them the opportunity, Hari One who wants happiness for oneself by creating suffering to others will associate with the enemy without separation. Enemy means the internal enemy of harm, afflictions, torments. Because it is misconception. Because of this misconception, even though you want happiness, but you engaged your life in such a way that you cultivated the causes for suffering. As Shantideva says, even though you want happiness, but because of ignorance, you destroy the causes of happiness as if it is your enemy. Even though you have this wish to shun suffering, but you keep on running after suffering. So this is an example, this is the classic example. You want happiness, but you mistreated others. Now you are mistreating others, will that become a cause for your happiness? No. It will become a cause for your enemy. And having done such negative action, the enemy will associate with the enemy without separation, means you will continue to create this enemy within yourself. That means the wish to harm others, harmful emotions, violence. These are your enemy, and they will never get separated from you because you will continue to feed these negative emotions. You will associate with the enemy, the internal enemy, without separation. And if you continue to develop these negative emotions, you will not be liberated from suffering. You will never be able to do that. So therefore, many people occasionally come to me and asking me, Geshe, teach me meditation. So most of the time I tell them the most important meditation is you recognize these negative emotions and try to reduce them. I mean, you can have this interesting, rituals of meditation, sit like this, sit like that, all those things we can do also. But the purpose of all the teachings of the Buddha is to minimize, if possible, eliminate, if not possible, reduce the negative emotions. If you are doing that, then even if you don't go to temple, even if you don't adopt any formal meditation, you are doing the most important practice. If you don't deal with these negative emotions, doesn't really matter. You circumambulate around the temple. You do 100,000 prostrations. It may be good for your physical exercise, but not for removing negative emotions. Right? Okay? So therefore what he is saying is, when we talk about suffering, we are not talking about the suffering of the body here. We are primarily talking about the suffering of the mind. So you will not get liberated from the suffering of that mind. Verse 3, those who harm and beat creatures out of the desire for happiness, such desire to happiness for oneself will not lead happiness beyond. There is a story of a shepherd at the time of the Buddha. So he was looking after his flock of animals, and then the animals started running into the field of some neighboring families. Then he was worried about the complaint that might come from the neighboring families, so he tried to stop his animals, and because these animals were not listening properly, so he used his sticks to beat these animals. So when seeing this, then the Buddha made this comment. The Buddha made this comment. Those who harm and beat creatures. There's a very common sight in India. You see this, even here in Dharamsala, you see the people who make the donkeys carry the load, On the one hand, they are heavily loaded, and on the other, they still use sticks to beat them. So the Buddha said, those who harm and beat creatures out of the desire to happiness, so that his neighbors doesn't complain to him. Such desire to happiness for oneself will not lead to happiness in this life, and beyond means in the future lives also. Now again, beating others, mistreating others is a sign that you don't care about them. You don't love them. You don't see their suffering. You are unable to relate to them. It's very clear. It's really very clear. Again, like you can take the example of your father, mother, or someone who really loves you. You will not beat them. Why? Because you love them. Right? Verse, for all those desiring happiness wish to achieve that by not harming and punishing creatures, will find happiness in the beyond. So contrary to verse number 3, so those people who desire happiness and wish to achieve that happiness, then the way to achieve that happiness is by not harming, by not punishing those creatures, by not beating those creatures. And if you adopt such a non-violent way of life, you will find happiness in this life, and you will find happiness in the life beyond, that means in the future lives. Okay? Now the main source for long-lasting happiness is proper engagement in the Dharma practice. Engage well in Dharma activities, do not engage in the wicked activities. Dharmic conduct brings happiness both in this life and future lives. Okay? So that means here engaging in Dharma primarily means developing compassion. Developing compassion. Engaging well in Dharma practice primarily means development of compassion. Okay? Development of compassion. As the Buddha has clearly said, if you develop one quality in the palm of your hand, you will have all the qualities in the palm of your hand. And that one quality is compassion. So here he is primarily saying, engage well in Dharma activities means developing compassion. Okay? Because if you develop positive practices like compassion, you will not fall into negative state of existence. Okay? And if you engage in the practice of developing compassion, then you cannot engage in wicked activities, meaning violent activities, practice of violence, etc., which are wicked activities, which create sufferings on others. So in this way, if you adopt that proper dharmic conduct, that will bring long-lasting happiness both in this life and future lives. So engaging well also means engaging in virtuous practices for the benefit of oneself and for the benefit of others, for the benefit of this life and for the benefit of many lives. So therefore you should refrain from wicked activities, meaning refrain from taking life of other animals. And instead you should save life of other animals. So this also means sometimes people engage in dharmic activities, sometimes non-dharmic activities. Wicked activities means irreligious activities. So those must be stopped. Wicked activities also means engaging in those activities which will bring suffering to oneself and suffering to others. Contrarily, if you engage well in dharma activities, not only you will have happiness and peace, but you will also get many other good things like respect, reputation, name and fame, and so forth. Okay? Engaging well, verse number 6, engaging well in spiritual activities cultivate happiness, and hence one engaging in dharma is guarded by dharma. One engaging in dharma will not go to bad migration. These are the benefits of engaging well in dharma. So this is talking a little bit about the benefits of engaging in dharma practice. If you engage properly in dharma practice, that dharma itself will protect you. In fact, if you look at this word, Sanskrit word dharma, dharma means to protect you from falling into negative state of existence. To dharma means to catch hold of you and not to allow you fall into negative state of existence. Okay, that's dharma. So if you engage properly, then that will produce. So without fail, it will protect you. For example, if you stop like engaging in killing or sexual misconduct or taking life and so forth, because of these positive activities, it will automatically protect you. Okay? So by this he is also saying that if you want to protect yourself, you can protect yourself by doing these inner spiritual practices, not by doing physical exercises and making yourself physically very strong. That's what we normally think, I should make my, body very strong so that I can fight and vanquish and kill the enemy, you see. He says, no, not just strengthening your physical body, okay, but through training your mind. In this text, he cited quotation by saying that sometimes we, bring elephants and camels and many other, big animals, and then we use swords and guns riding on them to kill and vanquish other. But that way you will not be able to protect yourself. You will protect yourself by collecting merit, by doing the right things. And not only that, when you do your dharma practice properly, there will be contentment, there will be love. And because of this, even in terms of your wealth, even in terms of your physical health, all this will be fine and very well looked after through such dharma practices. So properly engaging in dharma also means systematically engaging in dharma practice by first cultivating faith, respect, and then practice of morality and so forth. Okay?
Just, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So is it important to, for one person to practice Dharma? They must take refuge, they must renounce?
No, if you want to become a Buddhist, then you must take refuge. Okay. Otherwise, many of these practices are common sense practices. You can do it. But if it's really like saying, if you want to become a Buddhist, then you must take refuge. Okay. Otherwise, many of these practices are common sense practices. You can do it. But if you, it's really like saying, if you want to become a Buddhist, then you must take refuge. Okay. Otherwise, many of these practices are common sense practices. You can do it. But if you, it's really like saying, it's like going to a school. Okay, in the lower schools from kindergarten to like even up to 12th class, you take many subjects, right? But when you do your PhD, you take one subject because you are specializing on that. When you specialize, you don't have time, and that's also not what you want to concentrate. So you choose one subject. So when somebody takes refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, become Buddhist, he's supposed to be specializing. Okay, but if you don't call yourself Buddhist or Christian and things like that, then you can study a little bit from Buddhism, a little bit from Christianity, a little bit from Islam and things like that. But you're not specializing. Something like that. Okay, yeah. Then he gives an example how this is so. Just like by a white parasol or umbrella in the summer, one engaging in Dharma is protected by Dharma. One engaging in Dharma does not go to bed migration. That's the benefit of engaging well in Dharma. So just as when you take a big umbrella, then it will, in the summer, when there is a lot of rain, that big umbrella will protect you. Not a small umbrella. Okay, normally, charwa jabdu niduk higdua. Niduk sedu, there's this parasol for protecting you from the heat of the sun, and also bigger umbrella to protect you from heavy rain, If you take that small umbrella which you normally use to protect yourself from sun, it may not be able to protect you from that heavy rainfall, you see. So therefore he says, yang bedukji, just like a white parasol, big parasol in summer, one engaging just like by a white parasol in the summer which protects you from heavy rainfall, similarly when one engages in Dharma, one is protected by Dharma and does not go to bad migration, and that is benefit of engaging well in Dharma. That is the second benefit, and in fact this is an example. Contrarily, if, verse number 8, if a careless person engages in what is non-Dharma, he will go to one of bad migration. Like grasping a black snake by the middle, those who engages in non-Dharma are ruined. So that means, now none of us has seen future lives, right? We have not seen hell also. We have not seen anything like that. And because of such reasons, normally, because we don't see the consequence immediately, therefore we don't care about the consequences. We always think it will be okay. If I drink a little bit, it's okay. If I fight a little bit, it's okay. We don't see the consequences. But then having picked a fight, then the consequences, you may be caught by the police, you may be imprisoned, things like that. It's something that happens immediately. The consequences of negative doing is experienced immediately. Right? Immediately. We don't have to talk about like you are being born in a hell realm in future lives. Even in this life, it's probably law of nature. You do good thing, have good thing. You do bad thing, have bad thing. It will be there. Either the law of the country will take that decision, or you will personally suffer. For example, if you get addicted in drinking, people advises you not to drink, it's not good for you, but you don't pay attention. You say, oh, I need to enjoy my life. You drink, then gradually you become alcoholic. Nobody can help you. You suffer. You spend all your money. You ruin your health, you see. This is all very clear, very clear. And he gives example by saying that if a careless person, so that's why, when we get ordained as a monk, then after the ordination ceremony is over, then as a parting advice, the Lama, in my case His Holiness, he says, now you are fully ordained, be careful. This is the parting advice. And these days I play with this word, take care. Normally, ordinarily, also in our ordinary exchanges, where you meet somebody and then when you part your ways and then you say, bye, take care. Right? That's not a Buddhist discourse, but ordinarily also we say, bye, take care. Nobody says, bye, I will take care of you. Because at the end of the day, that's what I have been saying, at the end of the day, unless you take care of yourself, nobody can, in the true sense of the term, can take care of you. So therefore he's repeatedly saying, be careful. Be careful, be attentive, be mindful. And see what you are doing is good for you, not good for you. Be careful, be attentive. If a careless, but contrarily, if you remain careless, if a careless person engages in what is non-dharma, for example, if somebody says, oh, I don't believe in religion, I don't believe in dharma, I believe only this life, so have fun and do all stupid things. There's no problem having fun, but keep on doing all destructive things. He will suffer in this very life. He will go to one of the bad migration in the future lives. Not only that, in this life you will start suffering. And he gives the example, it's like grasping a black snake by the middle. Those who engage in non-dharma are ruined. That means there's a story. There's somebody who has a, begging stick or something, stick that he uses for the shepherd or something. So he comes back to his home and then he, just leaves the stick somewhere. Forgets the stick somewhere. And then he was sleeping. And normally wherever he goes, he takes that snake, takes that stick. But now he just left it somewhere and he goes to sleep. And then suddenly a snake comes, crawls on his body. And because he is so used with that stick, walking stick or beating stick, whatever, he thought in his sleepiness, he thinks, this is my stick, and he holds on to it. And the snake, of course, will bite that person and kill that person. So like grasping a black snake by the middle, thinking that this is my stick, that person will be killed. So similarly, those who engage in non-dharma are ruined just by your own wrongdoing. So therefore it is important, the next verse, number 9 is saying, therefore it's important for you to have a clear understanding what are the consequences of positive activities and what are the consequences of negative activities. The fruition of both, the dharma and non-dharma, will not be the same. So don't think they are same. By non-dharma one goes to hell or negative state of existence or suffering. And by dharma one achieves good migration, good existence, good life, happiness, peace. Okay? Verse number 10, it is said that from the point of time, giving and war are similar, as they are alike in being thoroughly upheld by cause. Thus giving and fighting are said to be similar. These qualities are not supported by the mean. So that means the most important thing, whether you are giving something to other people or whether you are going to war, the most important thing is your motivation. If your motivation is pure, then giving or even going to war may be similar. Like for example, if somebody goes to the war to save millions of lives of millions of people, not just to become a hero, war hero, but to save life of millions of people, even though going to the war and killing somebody is generally wrong, but with this motivation you go, then that also becomes a virtuous practice. So therefore it is similar like giving, you see. Normally we'll think giving is good, going to war is not good. But it all very much dependent upon the motivation. Okay? And these qualities are not supported by the mean, means those people who don't have those positive qualities, who are negative by nature, they will not be able to get the same benefit by doing these two different things. Okay. And then they're also same in one sense, meaning that whatever you're doing, you must fully concentrate in it. For example, if you're giving, practice of giving, then you should know why you are giving, what you are giving, to whom you are giving, what is the time of giving, and so forth. Fully concentrate on the practice of giving so that your giving becomes a perfect practice. Generally, giving is good. Practice of generosity is good. Practice of charity is good. Right? But because of that knowledge that giving is in general good, if you start giving poison, then it's wrong. It's giving, but it's wrong because it can kill other people. And similarly, if you give food to somebody who will not be able to digest that food, giving, that is wrong then. If you give food to somebody, a monk, who may be fasting, and then you bring plate of delicious momo, well-cooked momo, that's also giving, but wrong. That will have negative consequences, not positive consequences. Right? So you should really concentrate. So similarly, when you go to war also, you need to concentrate to whom you are fighting, what kind of weapons you are using, when will be the best time to retreat, all these things. So from the point of view of concentration, there are similarities in both the cases. Okay. Verse number 11, just as a well-armed person by himself alone scatters and conquers the enemy who are not well-armed, so too by giving a small gift after having cultivated faith brings happiness to them in all other lives. Okay, so generally when you fight a war, you go to the war, you need weapons, you need good preparation, right? You need good preparation. So here, just as a well-armed person by himself alone, if you have this bravery within yourself, and then plus if you have the needed arms, swords or guns or pistols or revolvers or whatever you want, if you have all this, then plus if you have that courage, then you can easily fight and scatter and conquer the enemy who is number one, not united, who doesn't have that preparation, doesn't have that courage, and more importantly, who are not well armed. Okay? So therefore, even if you similarly, so too by giving a small gift, even if you give a small gift, but if you are giving that gift with faith, with devotion, with full concentration, then that will bring happiness. Not only in this life, but many other lives. Those who resist miserliness, which is the enemy, and give without attachment in their minds, I say these people are greater heroes than the heroes who are victorious in the 100 wars. So this is similar to what I explained with reference to the senses. So just as I said, one who gains control over the 5 senses is more victorious than one who gains control, victorious in the battlefield. So similarly here also, one who stops miserliness, stinginess. Stinginess is the enemy. Miserliness is the enemy. So if one who is able to stop it by having no attachment in their minds, I say these people are greater heroes than the heroes who are victorious in 100 wars. Right? So therefore, sometimes these masters, they say, sometimes normally you hear about the benefit of giving. So sometimes these teachers, they say, I will today not talk about benefit of giving, but I will talk about disadvantage of holding, disadvantage of stinginess. Now again, interestingly, this is again scientifically proved. The scientists, they do a lot of experiment and testing. Now they found, they measure the happiness of the giver and to whom something is given. When they measure the happiness, normally we'll think, okay, the one who got the gift will be happier. The one who gives the gift is the loser because he gives something away. Right? If I give my watch to you, Scott, then Scott will be happy, but I will be poorer, right? That's what we think. But now scientifically they found that the giver is happier and more peaceful than the recipient. Scientifically proved now. So interesting. You see? So it's really, this all shows, it's not so much about having wealth and possession which will make you happy and peaceful, but it is your mental state. Through certain activities, when your mind is really satisfied, you are happy, you are peaceful. Number one. Number two, the more and more I grow older, the more and more I see the uselessness of hoarding. Hoarding so many stuffs in our rooms. 10 pairs of shoes, 10 pairs of slippers, 10 pairs of pants and jackets and whatnot, Endless list, endless counting, how many we are using. You see, so you'll find, if you explore, if you do research with the things that you possess, you will find many of them totally useless, just headache. Not much use. When we came into this world, we came with nothing. When we go empty-handed. But of course you will say, yes, that is true, but in between we need. Yes, we need. Yes, we need. But how much? That's the question. How much? Yes, you need certain things, but not everything that is sold in the market. Not everything that is sold in the market. Because if you keep on buying all those, most of the things that is in the market are more or less junks. If you keep on buying everything, you will have no space left in your room. It's just headache, just useless. So therefore he's especially talking about stinginess. Verse number 13, results of merit is happiness. Merit means doing good things. If you do good things, the result will be happiness. Why? Because as that fulfills one's wishes. See? Fulfills one's wishes. Fulfilling one's wishes, developing satisfaction within one's own mind. That is the source of long-lasting peace and happiness. And actualizes transcendence of suffering, the sublime peace. That means through that practice, then you will gradually transcend suffering and achieve sublime peace, which means liberation, nirvana. Verse number 14, to those who make merits, interference cannot be done by heavenly and other types of will forces and harms coming from other sources. Now this is very interesting teaching, which we may not readily agree. But the thing is, it says, if you continuously do good, collect merit, then because of this power of merit and good things, you cannot be disturbed, you cannot be interfered by others. Heavenly powers will not be able to disturb you, evil forces will not be able to disturb you. Does it seem true or not true? This is a powerful statement, meaning that if you really collect a lot of merit by doing good things, you cannot be disturbed by others from heavenly realms or from evil forces. Does it sound true or not?
It sounds difficult to understand.
It sounds difficult to understand, yes. I'll give you an example. I did not hear much these days, but some years back when I give talks especially to students, young students, you will find a number of students saying that, Geshe-la, I am very often interfered by evil spirits. How should I deal with that? People ask these questions. Evil forces, evil spirits. So I tell them, you are interfered by evil spirits because you are weak. Did you get? You are interfered, you are disturbed by evil spirits because you are weak. Example is, when you are weak, physically weak, when your immune system goes down, you will get sick. Physically, right? You got my point? Physically, when you are weak, your immune system goes down, all viruses will easily attack you. Similarly, mentally, when you don't have the strength of these positive qualities like merit, you can be easily interfered. Did you get the clue? Because primarily it's your mind. At the end of that, it's your mind. When your mind is strong with love, with compassion, with all the good things, you have no suspicion, you have no doubt. So all these interferences will not be there. And that's why Milarepa, when he was meditating in the cave alone, in the wilderness, really many of the spirits came to harm him. Then first he got a little bit scared, and then he said, "Oh, there's nothing called evil spirit outside, it's all your mind made up." And then he did his meditation, the evil forces disappeared, you see.
Is that emptiness?
Yeah, of course. Primarily thinking about the nature of emptiness, whether it's the good force or evil force, nothing has independent existence from their own side. Very much related to how you see, how you perceive things. When you wrongly perceive things, even your shadow, you will fear your shadow. Right? When you have the fear, I used to have that when I was younger. If I, especially when I go to Tibetan settlement, and goes to see one of my relatives a little bit further away, and there's no proper light, then I start walking. It really looks like the ghost is following me. I could even hear the footsteps. It's actually like my footstep, you see. So you hear almost like footstep coming. You tend to look like this, you develop that fear. It's not there, nothing is there. Your mind can make such things. You see? Right? So that's what he's saying. To those who make merits, and in Buddhism we say those who take refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha cannot be harmed by evil forces. Right? Interference cannot be done by heavenly and other types of evil forces. And harms coming from other sources will also not be possible. Verse number 15. If in order to end suffering one endeavors to possess excellence, wisdom and generosity, one will actualize special insight. Now that means if in order to end suffering one endeavors to possess excellence, excellence here primarily means practice of morality, because it's practice of morality by which you will excel. And plus wisdom that sees the reality, that sees the shunyata, and practice of charity or generosity, one will actualize special insight. Meaning that on the one hand you should have this practice of morality, and then secondly wisdom, which primarily talks about meditation, and then generosity. If you make effort in that, then due to the merit collected by these three practices, you will be able to end suffering. In the sense that this will lead to your actualizing special insight, meaning that you will then be able to see the reality as it is. And when you are able to see the reality as it is, then that is the right antidote, the wisdom that sees the reality as it is, the right antidote to uproot suffering. Now morality is the foundation, just like the earth, which is the foundation for everything. Animate beings, inanimate beings. Without earth we can't build a house, we can't walk. So morality is really like the ground. So morality basically means helping others, not harming others, doing good things. It's not talking about a discipline that you need to observe, that has been imposed upon you by someone. We are not talking about that morality. Morality basically means doing something that will benefit others, doing something that is virtuous. Right? And when you engage in such a way of life, then your mind will be clear. Your mind will be clear. And then you will be able to, when your mind is clear, then you will develop that wisdom, or you will be able to meditate. Okay? Things like, so this is what he's saying. Verse number 16, with great purity of mind, when one enjoys Dharma, happiness will be actualized. to the teachings taught by superior beings, the wise one always delight. So through such practices, as we already explained, your mind will be pure, very clear. When your mind is not distracted, very pure, then naturally you will delight in Dharma practice. Okay, not many people will delight in Dharma practice because their mind is impure. Their mind is distracted in many other things, many other mundane, materialistic activities. Okay, so your being able to delight in Dharma is a wonderful thing. But in your case also, you're coming to listen to Dharma is a wonderful thing because you have that delight, you have that, happiness to listen to such a teaching. Okay? Same Rabdu Thangtang, when with great purity of mind, when one enjoys Dharma. Enjoys Dharma means when you not only follow the Dharma, but if you understand the meaning of the teaching, then you will be able to appreciate its great qualities. And then you will not only develop delight in it, but you will then be able to continue to stay in that Dharma practice. Okay? This is one way of explaining. Another way of explaining means Dharma here refers to the Dharma of the Four Noble Truth, which is the first teaching of the Buddha. So if you fully understand the teaching of the Four Noble Truth, and then from that you will be able to put an end to suffering, and therefore you will be able to enjoy that happiness will be actualized. Okay? So that means you will be able to develop faith which is based on knowledge continuously. And then you will be continue to stay with the teachings taught by superior beings. Superior being here primarily refers to the Buddhas. You will continue to develop delight and continue to practice the teachings of the Buddha. The wise ones always delight. The wise ones here means somebody who has realized the teaching of the enlightened Buddhas. Because you have realized the teaching of the Buddha, you are wise, and therefore you will always delight in his teaching. Because you are able to develop that delight in the teaching, because you are able to distinguish between what is a virtuous practice, what is a non-virtuous practice. Right? The wise ones always delight. Hola, so this is us. Time is up. So we stop here. Thank you. At the end of the text there is one verse. We'll read this verse and close the session. Dua. May those with fear be fearless. May those under bondage be freed. May those powerless be empowered. May our hearts join in friendship. The purpose of the journey to Gorwadi. Takwanam ne jigmesho, Jingwanam ne Tojurchi, Tumenam ne Tunding, 70 pins you. Did not hear Monyan Winina Yerida. Monyan Winina, 17 pins you, Yenjurchiks. Monyan Winina. Okay, that is the Junjung Nere, Namju Jorna, we are it. Lasso, good night.